Good afternoon, everybody. We are back on the 2003 Toyota Matrix, Pontiac Vibe GT, aka Matrix XRS. Alright, in this episode we are going to be working on the exhaust. I've actually already made some progress on this. I had a leak. We just did the exhaust in a previous video. The whole thing's stainless, and you guys will see that coming up. The header seems to be leaking, and there's other issues too, like the heat shield. It's rotted out in 3 of the attachment points, so I think that I'm hearing it just kind of rattling around. But I also think that there was a leak at the flange, and I wanted to make sure that this thing didn't have any holes in it, because that downpipe did have, holes in it. So, I pulled it off, and it doesn't have any holes in it, so that's good. I'm just going to reuse the gasket. I'm going to clean it up really good, make sure it's nice and flat, and we're going to put some copper gasket on it and put it back together. But first we're going to take and we're going to clean it up. You can see there's a lot of nastiness here, and we can basically just kind of clean this all up, make sure it's flat. I'm going to actually throw it, I think, in the bead blaster. But the other thing we're going to do, probably the first thing we're going to do, is we're going to port it. There's about 5 horsepower from what I've read to be had here porting this. So there's basically like a big kind of flange here, and there's a lip. Basically, you can see that, yeah. So there's a lip right here going into the exhaust pipes. So what you need to do, what people do, is they come in here with a die grinder and clean these up, make them look good. And then there's maybe just a tiny bit of meat, to be had in some of the peripheral, like right there's a little bit that can be taken out. So basically we're just going to gasket match this and blend in these right here. And then on the other end, you can see the transition that they have there. It's just a big goober weld, so we'll get some of that taken out as well. So after we do all that port work, we're going to clean this thing up really good. We're going to give it some flame-proof black paint, and we're gonna actually header wrap it because that heat shield's busted. And I'm actually going to, I think I'm gonna cut this heat shield back off, and I'm gonna header wrap this thing as well. I wanted to do that originally, but I was like, I could put the shield back on there, but screw it. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap this. We're gonna wrap this, and then we're gonna make sure that we put a good coating of sealer on it and everything, and try to get it, so it doesn't, because the downside is, you could, if a lot of water gets in here and sits in here, you could rust this thing out. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think we're going to be able to do it just fine. These headers are unique because it's a cast flange with a tubular header. So these actually flow really good, and you can get something better, but it's a long tube header, and it's just about $1,000. So people have ported these, and dyno results prove that it is like 5 horsepower. Even in the mid-range, there's some horsepower to be gained, but peak horsepower, about 5 horsepower. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that, get this thing all ready, and get it back on the car, and hopefully, we won't even be done with the exhaust there. We got more stuff to do with the exhaust as well. I need to make a small modification to part of it. I'll show you guys later. And then the last thing we're going to do in this video, in order to get the manifold out, we had to pull the valve cover. There was no way it was going down through the bottom, and then it wouldn't come up with the valve cover on, but as soon as we took the valve cover off, pretty much came right out. The Velcro gasket that I got for this, it didn't seem to seal it up very well, so I got a Toyota one coming, and then I'm going to replace the lift bolts, and we'll talk about that when that happens. That's pretty much going to be it for this video. We're going to do that modification. We're going to do another modification to the exhaust back there. We'll replace those lift bolts and put the valve cover back on. So that's what's coming up. let's start on this port work. All right, so one thing we're gonna start with basically is scribing this out. And I'm not gonna go crazy with this port job, but we are gonna make it way, way better. I guess I could maybe use paint for this, but there we go. Okay. I can work off of that. I've got a good scribe line. Here we go. I'm just going to turn you guys on time lapse because this is going to be loud. Alright guys, it's the next day and this thing is finished. It's turned out very nice. I mean, so I was really surprised about how much material you can take out of this. So I can totally see why there's 5 wheel horsepower. According to dynos, other people dynoing it, 5 wheel horsepower on the table with doing this modification, because I mean there was a ton of meat in there that needed to be taken out, and back here too. Really surprised about how much was back here. So I mean that was really closing it off quite a bit. So now the next thing is to get this thing wrapped, and we're gonna get that done, and then I gotta go run to Toyota and get a new valve cover gasket and lift bolts. All right, guys, it's turned out really good. I'm happy with it. Same with the downpipe. All right, so now we're getting ready to put this thing back in. I gotta go get parts, but I also need to go to the dump, and the dump doesn't open till 10. So we're gonna get this back in real quick. So let's go ahead and spray this down. And I'm gonna try and get, what do they want to try and get? Some in between the layers here. I sandblasted this and it kind of warped it, but I don't think that's gonna be an issue because we're gonna just clamp it back down, and that actually gives us a chance to get some in between the two layers. So we're gonna get this layered up, we're gonna get this prepped, and then we're gonna get this header stabbed in there. Alright guys, so we got this all hooked back up. Everything's installed. You can see the header. Alright, so we got all that situated, hooked back up. Now the next thing we need to turn our attention to is this guy right here. This is a problem because when the suspension, when you let it down, like you kind of think that maybe it's pushing all the way down because it's on this on this swing axle right now, but it actually, when you set it down, it comes within probably a finger's width of the pipe, and it hits in certain situations. So I'm going to cut the pipe, I think, clear back here because this is a slip fit, and I'm just going to cut it right here and remove this entire piece right here, and then we're going to put more of like a 90 here, come up, and then try to bring it straight across over the axle. We're really good right here. If this bend was, you know, we'll make it work, okay? And this just isn't gonna work. So, and we got too many pieces here anyway, so we might as well just take this whole chunk out and redo it, and then it'll be perfect. There it is. Alright guys, I stayed up late last night working on this thing. I got the exhaust finally done. So let's go front to back. We got our header. Oh my light. Header and downpipe wrapped. We've got this, there's clearance there. It's hard to see, but there's clearance. There's plenty of clearance there. Here. This is the part that we modified here. So up to here. And then all of this. Tailpipe looks good. The tailpipe before was like, it was pretty much touching the body. So I wanted to bring it down a little bit, and I think that looks a little better like that. So it came out pretty good. It was a lot of work. It fought me the whole way. You know, I mocked everything up, tacked it all together, took it down, welded it up, put it back up, and of course things had moved and it was rubbing, so I had to do some stuff. I had to recut this and kind of spread it to get it to fit right. But I think finally it's not hitting anything. I think it's good. So the other thing I did last night was I finished cleaning this. So my buddy Noah, when we did the valve cover gasket the first time, He did a good job cleaning this, but I mean, it was so grimy, it was ridiculous. So I went and I cleaned it up some more, including all of the gunk out of here. This was really bad. He did a good job getting the initial phase, and then I came back and just scrubbed the crud out of it, and I flushed out all of this tube right here. This is like an oil squirter, I guess. So we flushed all that out, try to get everything as clean as possible inside and outside, and now I'm going to mask it up, and I'm actually going to paint it. And where's my paint? We're going to wrinkle paint it. So I'm hoping that this works out. It's kind of iffy. It's not exactly the perfect temperature, so I'm going to use a heat gun to warm up the part. I need to make sure that this is totally ready to go. I just noticed another spot on here that I kind of want to clean up more, which is right there. When I was flipping it, I'm like, oh yeah, so it's a little dirty here, a little dirty under here. So we'll get that cleaned up real quick, and then we'll mask everything off, and we'll spray this Wrinkle Plus paint on there, and let's hope that it works. Alright guys, so the next thing we gotta do before we get that valve cover back on while it dries is we've got to replace the lift bolts. These are the lift bolts, part number. So this is, some earlier 2ZZs have a different style of lift bolt that you definitely want to replace, but these are a wear item. They're less than $2 a pop, and you can see right here there's wear on the shaft right there on the bolt. There's actually a pretty good groove right there in that part of it. So those need to be replaced every once in a while. I don't know what the interval is, but this car's got 250,000 miles on it. I don't know, like I said before, I don't know if it's had an engine. I wouldn't be surprised if it did have an engine already, but I wouldn't be that surprised if it didn't either. So lift bolts, let me show you guys where those come out of. So your lift bolts are right here. This light. Right here, this bolt and that bolt. So you pull those guys out and you put these in and you torque them to 7 foot-pounds, and that's it. So I'm gonna pull the other one out real quick and show you guys, and then hopefully it's not broken, because sometimes they are. So people do find they get in there and they've waited too long or something, and then the bolt actually is busted off in there, and it can be really hard to extract. This one has a really good groove worn into it. So, yep, it's a good thing we got in there and placed those. I didn't think about it when we first tore the valve cover off, so I'm happy that we got in here and got this and got that valve cleaner fully cleaned up. And we got a OEM Toyota valve cover gasket as well to go on this, because the Felpro one, it was kind of iffy whether it was actually sealing up or not. It kind of seemed like it wasn't. So, and we got a new PCV valve. I did that like a week ago or something off camera. So we got a new PCV valve to go in there. I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and then when that valve cover dries, we will get that put back on. Alright, so it's dry. You're not supposed to handle it too much at this point, but it's come out really good. I like it. But I'm ready to get this thing back in, so I need to be careful, but I've already got the PCV installed, but I'm going to flip it over and get the seals installed. Okay. Okay, good. You guys hit. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get this put on here. You gotta put a little bit of silicone or some sort of sealer on between the timing cover and the head. There's a little gap there. You usually want to put some silicone on there. Okay, so now we're gonna slide this sucker on here. All right. It's not loud and wild. I really considered painting it red or something like that, but this is nice and clean. It's better than the kind of dirty aluminum look. I like it. Alright guys, I'm going to get all these bolts. I'm going to get this thing bolted down. Nothing special going on here. And I'm ready to get this thing fired up. See if the exhaust sounds any different. Oh, fuck. Got the gasket. Shoot. Dang it. Alright, I gotta pull it back off and do the gasket. See you guys when it's done. Alright, so I wanted to mention something about the valve cover gasket. After we did the valve cover gasket, initially, this is a Felpro gasket. It comes with the tubes. I believe it came with the seals for the spark plug tubes. When I tightened it down initially, it just went all the way to the bottom. You know what I mean? Like the bolts bottomed out, which is fine. This thing, is meant to really be bottomed out, but it had like no resistance to it. And it seemed like it was still leaking afterwards, although it kind of seemed like it might have sealed up. But anyways, when I put this Toyota one on here, there was so much more like squish to it once you started tightening it up. So I think that's a big difference. So that's kind of a waste of money, that Felpro one. The Toyota one, I don't know, I can't remember how much it was, but it was not cheap. Nothing from them is cheap, except for those little bolts. Those were pretty cheap. I forgot these two hoses. Alright, everything is sounding good. Looking good, sounding good. We got a header wrap that's gonna be burning stuff off. That's already starting to cook. So let's go. I'll take you guys for a little drive real quick and we'll see if we hear anything weird with the exhaust. Right now I'm not hearing anything weird. It sounds quite a bit quieter, really. I think that vibrant resonator, that little resonator we put on there, really made a big difference in the loudness of this thing. Alright guys, here we go. What's up with my seatbelt? Why does it feel weird? Okay. Alright, we gotta turn the AC on because it is a little bit warm in here. I think it's still a little bit too loud muffler wise. I think I'm gonna swap the muffler out eventually. But it sounds really good. not hearing that noise. I could hear some sort of exhaust noise coming out from up here. And now that's gone, and all I hear really is muffler. So alright. This thing's pretty well warmed up. Woo. There's a lot more to come on this car, guys. I mean, we're just getting things kind of dialed in for now. I've got some KYB struts waiting. I'm gonna get some I think I'm gonna go with the Ibach Pro Springs, which they're just like a 1-inch drop. So I just want a real mild drop. I don't want to make it inconveniently low. So a mild drop, and hopefully, honestly, paint this summer. So, but there's a lot more to do. I want to find the factory subwoofer for the rear. You know, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of little stuff. Some big things like the rust repair underneath still has to be done. But yeah, this thing is getting way, way better. Alright, watch the RPMs. 6,000. So, there you go. That is 2ZZ getting into the lift. It feels good. When the lift comes on, it does feel a little bit stronger than it did before. And my first one, it felt really strong when the lift came in. And now, of course, I'm just remembering it. I can't like physically test it, but this one feels better now. We cleaned the valve cover. You know, we got all that junk out of there and flushed all the oil passages and all that junk. That's really good. We did, what did we do? Valve cover gasket, of course. Ported and wrapped that header, fixed our exhaust, got our AC working. So, you know, this thing is getting about where we want it to be for our daily. So, I think that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. There'll be more from this car for sure. Please smash that like button for me, hit the subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified of future videos coming out from DJ's Hot Rod and Fab. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.